Почитувани медиуми,
Respected media, respected citizens, you are following the press conference of the Minister of Economy, Kreshnik Bekteshi, on which will be addressed the head of the Massimiliano Paolucci and the ambassador of the United Kingdom in North Macedonia, Rachel Galloway, on which they are going to inform you on the project on enhancing the legal frame and PPP and concessions of North Macedonia, of which results the draft version of the new law on PPPs. After the address, everybody on Zoom platform will be in position to ask questions. First is the Minister of Economy. Please feel welcome, Minister. Respected Rachel Galloway, Ambassador of the United Kingdom, dear Massimiliano Paolucci, Head of the World Bank in North Macedonia, respected media, and the citizens of North Macedonia. It is my honor and pleasure that today we can all together inform you about a process started last year, which today results in improved regulations in the area of public-private partnership in North Macedonia. Let us start from the very beginning. Although we have already started several processes for public-private partnership in North Macedonia, the country still does not fully avail of the possibilities and conditions of the public-private partnership and concession agreements that apply in both the region and the European Union. For that purpose, in July 2019, the Ministry of Economy, together with the World Bank and with the support of the British Embassy, launched the projects strengthening the legal framework and policy of PPPs and concessions in the Republic of North Macedonia. Given that the main reasons for choosing the PPPs in better quality and prices of public services, reduction of budget expenditures, and further distribution of costs and benefits between current and future generation of taxpayers, the purpose of this project was to use such benefits by improving the regulations in the area of PPPs. After conducting detailed analysis and the findings of the World Bank experts, the Ministry of Economy prepared the first draft law on public partnership. The main purpose of this draft law on public-private partnership is to strengthen the role and competencies of the Ministry of Economy as a strong supervisory entity in the implementation of PPPs projects throughout their process, starting from the beginning until the end of the agreement for PPPs. I would like to inform you is that during the preparation of this regulation in the past, as a competent ministry, we are in constant communication with the Chamber of Commerce and the business community in order to have a legal framework that will be in interest of all stakeholders to define and clarify the problems that have faced FASO in the private partnership in order to improve the opportunities for using the private sector for timely delivery of more efficient and better public services. After its drafting and their preparation, we sent them on to all public-private partnership, to all improved parties, in order to fully comply with the best world standards and international PPP practices in the coming period. The new law on public partnership aims to contribute to the socio-economic development of Republic of North Macedonia by encouraging competitiveness, investment, trade, and technological innovation. The new investments infrastructure will provide better jobs, increase access to the labor market, and provide better services in key sectors such as water, energy, health, and education. The domestic thing as a model that we used in all the developed countries, even though we have practices of PPPs in our country, especially in the part of the construction of technological development zones, such as partnerships with TAV in regards of the construction of the airports. We as a Ministry of Economy, we have already completed all the preparation regarding the creation of new department that will be dealing completely with all the agreements, starting the municipalities, all the institutions that are in the central government, for the purpose to enable them to be encouraged to use this model that is certainly going to contribute to the economic development of the state, and at the same time there'll be no expenditures on the budget of North Macedonia. At the end, I would like once again to express gratitude to the British Embassy and the World Bank for the great support in the realization and preparation of the new draft loan PPPs, but at the same time in the creation of register of public-private partnerships in North Macedonia, where in a very transparent manner the public and the interested sides, starting from the potential investors, will have the opportunity to have a view of all the private partnership on local level up to the central government. How are they prepared and realized in our state? Thank you very much.
Është nder dhe kënaqësi që sot së bashku me ambasadoren e Britanisë, por njëkohësisht edhe me drejtorin dhe apo shefin e zyrës së Bankës Botërore Massimiliano Palucci, pra i cili është edhe përgjegjës për Republikën e Maqedonisë së Veriut, të njoftojmë të gjithë opinionin, të gjithë komunitetin e biznesit, se më vetëm është përgatitur ligji sa i përket partneritetit publiko-privat, një ligj pothuajse krejtësisht i ri, i cili do të hapi një mundësi shtesë për investime të reja në vendin tonë. Duke filluar nga investimet në nivel lokal, deri te ato në nivel qendror, duke mos harruar tu edhe investimet private apo investimet në procese prodhimtarie të cilat nga viti i ardhshëm, pra me miratimin e këtij ligji, mund të ndodhin në vendin tonë. Unë dua të shfrytëzoj rastin që të faleminderoj për mbështetjen ambasadën e Mbretërisë së Bashkuar, por njëkohësisht edhe të gjithë ekspertët e Bankës Botërore për angazhimin maksimal dhe cilësor të cilën e kanë dhënë gjatë përpilimit të këtij ligji, një ligj shumë i rëndësishëm për zhvillimin ekonomik të vendit tonë, por njëkohësisht edhe një model i cili shfrytëzohet edhe nga vendet e zhvilluara, duke filluar nga ato të Bashkimit Evropian, por edhe shtetet të cilët janë duke e zhvilluar këtë model në kuadër të Ballkanit Perëndimor. Republika e Maqedonisë së Veriut, më vetëm se ka ligj për partneritet publiko-privat dhe koncesione, por ne kemi vendosur që pikërisht të ndajmë këta dy ligje, ku nëpërmes regjistrit të cilin do të krijojmë dhe është në përfundim e sipër së bashku me Mbretërinë e Bashkuar dhe me Bankën Botërore, të gjithë investitorët potencial, po njëkohësisht edhe institucionet lokale dhe qendrore, pothuajse që nga fillimi i procesit apo realizimit të modelit për partneritet publiko-privat, do të kenë mundësinë që në kuadër të Ministrisë së Ekonomisë të marrin pra edhe mbështetjen adekuate me të vetmin qëllim që ato të jenë më të guximshëm për realizimin e modeleve të tilla, ku nuk ka nevojë pra edhe financim drejt për drejt nga buxhetet përkatëse. Kjo me siguri që të hapi edhe mundësi për investime private, qoftë ajo në sektorin e shëndetësisë, në veçanti sektorin e infrastrukturës, po njëkohësisht edhe në arsim, si dhe në ndërtimin e një sër projektesh të cilët janë me interes kombëtar pra për Maqedoninë e Veriut. Unë edhe njëherë dua të faleminderoj për mbështetjen Mbretërinë e Bashkuar, ekspertët e Bankës Botërore për realizimin e këtij projekti me rëndësi për vendin tonë, i cili me siguri do të hapi një rrugë tjetër sa i përket zhvillimit ekonomik të vendit, por edhe një mundësi e re për investime të reja në vendin ton, duke shfrytzuar një model ku drejt për drejt nuk do të tangohet edhe buxheti shtetëror i vendit, po njëkohësisht edhe buxhetet e komunave, të cilët do të vendosin të realizojnë projekte nëpërmes partneritetit publiko-privat. Ju faleminderit.
Благодарам, министер. Сега би сакала...
Thank you, Minister. And I would like to invite online the head of the World Bank in North Macedonia, Massimiliano Paolucci.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much for this invitation. And respected Minister, Ambassador Galloway, representative of the media, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And it's particularly a pleasure to be here because this event today goes at the very essence of what the World Bank is doing, and that is supporting the partners with whom we work with to take advantage of all the opportunities to make the best use of public resources and for development in an efficient, effective, and transparent manner. And in doing so, to leverage also the resources that are available from the private sector. Public-private partnerships can play a constructive role, particularly in infrastructure development of a country, and can improve the quality and cost efficiency of public service delivery. Throughout the world, we see countless examples of the use of PPPs or concessions, especially in airports, toll roads, building services, energy and water supply, to name some of the examples. Indeed, if you look at the experience within the European Union, you would see that a lot of the European member states, from France to Germany to Italy, Spain, they've launched successful examples of public-private partnerships today. So if implemented correctly, and given the constrained fiscal space that some countries and governments may have, through PPPs may be the way to go. Let me give you a sense of the global scale of PPPs. According to the World Bank Private Participation in Infrastructure database, only in 2019, the investments through PPPs reached 96.7 billion across 409 projects in 62 countries. And that excludes investments in OECD countries and other high-income countries. It is worth noting that PPPs very rarely represent more than 10% of a government's annual investment. It remains a supplement rather than a substitute for traditional public investment. The World Bank has helped many countries across the world develop and execute successful PPPs and concessions. Our experience shows that you need three things to achieve a successful PPP implementation. First, political will to prioritize getting PPPs moving forward in a sensible and consistent manner. Second, public sector capacity to develop projects, engage with the private sector in a mutually beneficial manner, and operate a good legal framework. But you also need private sector capacity to handle complex projects in partnership with the public sector. And the third element of success is transparency about the use and performance of PPPs, because that builds trust within the public, and with trust, you have sustainability and success of the program. Today's event shows very clearly that the authorities of North Macedonia are very committed to this, to walk in this path. I'm basing my comments on the recent work we have done by invitation of the Ministry of the Economy and with the financial support of the British Embassy. This work can be easily downloaded from the webpage of the ministry. I'm referring to the baseline diagnostic report that the Ministry of the Economy has just published. In our analysis, we find that there is a solid legal framework for developing PPPs. It needs a bit of upgrading, but it's broadly there. The opportunity of relying on PPPs more in the future lies, as noted before, in the ability of building the capacity to implement such projects, both on public, but also on the private sector side. Experience shows that it's important that the line ministries, municipalities, the Ministry of the Economy, the Ministry of Finance, and other decision-making bodies work together around a common strategy in a structured way to ensure good projects happen and bad projects are just stopped. In terms of institutional setup, we've also found that North Macedonia is close to where it should be. But there is room for us to work with our colleagues in the government to develop detailed manuals and guidelines and conduct training based on good practice from across the world. We're also working on the more technical side of things, developing the precise specifications for a new IT-based registry of PPPs, which will help to ensure clarity and transparency with respect to PPPs. Let me end by saying that PPPs are not a silver bullet. There is no such thing as a free lunch, and if an activity is basically unsustainable, it will stop, regardless of whether or not we are using PPPs. A good PPP needs to represent an activity where there is a clear demand for a service, and there is a clear willingness and ability of the citizen and or the government to pay for the service. There will always be risks associated with this kind of investments. PPPs should not be used, however, as a way of getting rid of risks, but rather to simply allocate the risk for those that handle them best and perhaps cheapest. Think about, for example, the management of airports. Now, as in many things in life, success relies on striking the right balance. Our diagnostic report shows that North Macedonia is on the right track. We look forward to providing the required assistance to accompany the government and the private sector on this path. Let me once again reiterate our gratitude for the financial support from the UK government that made this work possible, and the close relationship with between the bank and the government of North Macedonia. Many thanks for this opportunity. Over.
Thank you to Mr. Palucci. Now I'd like to invite the ambassador to the United Kingdom, Rachel Gower, to address you, please.
Dear Minister of Economy Bekteshi, World Bank Country Manager Paolucci, dear representatives of the media, we're happy to support the government in identifying and operationalising a public-private partnership model that's fit for the Macedonian needs in economy and public services. The World Bank guidance, experience and advice, using the evidence and best practices from PPPs in other countries, will make sure that the government has the facts and figures that will enable them to design the optimal PPP model for this country. In the UK, we have long experience with partnerships between the private sector and the government in delivering services for citizens. PPPs have now delivered £56 billion worth of private sector capital investment in over 700 UK infrastructure projects. PPPs are now common in almost every aspect of public infrastructure. For example, in England and Wales, this includes roads, schools, university student accommodation, prisons, defence, border control, healthcare and hospitals. We also use PPPs in environment and green energy through waste to energy management, wastewater transportation, street lighting, energy transmission, and other projects such as solar. I understand that the government here is also thinking about using PPPs in green energy, and I hope that we'll be able to share our experiences on this. PPPs transfer delivery, cost, and performance risk to the private sector. This protects the public sector from delays, cost overruns, and poor performance. While many of the projects worldwide have been successful, there have been some high-profile failures, including the collapse of facilities management and some public construction projects. This led to questions in the UK about this model and the outsourced services model, challenging the PPP approach. Such experience have led to reforms addressing some of these criticisms, with the UK government introducing greater emphasis on efficiency, transparency and risk sharing. Now, many companies participating in UK PFI PPP projects are signatories to the Voluntary Code of Conduct for operational PFI PPP contracts. This sets out the commitments from both public and private sector parties in relationship to their constructive engagement and flexibility, which is designed to improve the operational efficiency of these projects. In the UK, a National Infrastructure Commission is mandated to take long-term strategic decisions on the UK's infrastructure needs. These include use of PPPs as an integral part of delivery on projects and services. This body provides the vision for the development of projects that are then taken forward at the central and local level. Strong, dedicated and professional teams manage all aspects of the PPP: planning, development, delivery, oversight. There are still differences of opinion in the use and management of PPPs, but one thing is clear, and that is that we need transparent and efficient management of PPPs. I hope that the information presented in the baseline that we're promoting today will set the path for the efficient and effective use of the PPP model, one that is fit for North Macedonia and improved by the best practices from around the world. Thank you.
Благодарам, амбасадорке. Сега следуваат прашањата од медиумите на Zoom платформа.
Now we would like the question, the colleague Alexander Phillips from Telma Television. Please be welcome. Who do you address the question to? The question are addressed. My question are addressed to the Minister of Economy, Bekteshi. Why are we still delaying the liberalization of the postal service when we are discussing why do we need another delay of liberalization of postal market? The fourth set of measures is going to be delivered on timely manner, because there are some indication that it is not going to be, because we have a rebalance of the budget, and then are to be decided the manners on which those financial funds are going to be used in the fourth set of measures. Do you believe it's a little bit delayed because the business announces new redundancies if the state is not going to subsidize the salaries for the month of October? Thank you, Alexandra. I will start with the second question regarding the fourth set of economic measures. I would like to avail myself of this opportunity to invite all the political parties with measures that are directed towards the support of the citizens, especially to the vulnerable categories and the business, and maintaining working position. This is not a daily politics, but we all to contribute to improve those measures in order to help the citizens and the economy. I am convinced that in a timely manner we'll start the realization of the fourth set of measures, even though some of the measures they have started to be realized, tax-free and the payment of salaries. the October salaries are to be delivered, that with all the preparations with the chambers of commerce that we have prepared, those companies that have a certain 30% of fall of their income, we have already started these days are going to deliver the legal solution to the Parliament, and we expect at the beginning of November to be adopted, and we will immediately realize them through the Public Revenue Office for the salaries of their employees, as it was the case initially, and you'll be able to have some assistance from the state. So during this week, the legal solution is going to be sent to the Parliament. As regards the payment of the salaries, as regards to the other measures, we are only waiting the adoption of the rebalance by the Parliament in order to be published in the official gazette. And the Ministry of Economy, the very next day, is going to publish all the calls for all the measures that are to be implemented by the Ministry of Economy. We have already prepared all the public calls, all of the criteria, together with the coordinative body, on the day of its legal possibility to publish them, to call upon the budget. We would provisions of the budget, we're going to publish them and take into consideration that we have similar measures previously. Most of the measures are to be online. All of the tourist agency, tourist guides and other sectors will be into position to apply online, and the state is going to directly, through the information of the institutions regarding the tourist agency, we have a register of tourist agencies, and directly will be informed on those grants. All of the measures are going to be realized pursuant the action plan. As regards the payments of salaries and the adoption of the rebalance, once again, I would like to call upon all the political parties to give their contribution in a timely manner to adopt all those legal solutions that will contribute for the assistance for the citizens and the business sector. As regards your first question, the Prime Minister has already announced, and the members of the central government, that we are starting procedure for preparation of feasibility study regarding the postal office of North Macedonia. After we have the feasibility study and the findings from those feasibility study, we will sit down and review it, and the decisions will be adopted. But we have to take into consideration all the action companies, public enterprises that have losses, and we have to find models that are modern and in line with the last models, and through PPP that today we are preparing with the British Embassy and the World Bank, all in for the purpose of to improve the services and at the same time not to have the negative impact regarding our budget, because some of these shareholders companies and public enterprises, as you already know, every year receive injection, let's say, or by the budget of the North Macedonia. Thank you. Alexandra, is this all? Can I ask Mr. Palucci? Mr. Palucci, are you online? Please. The World Bank tomorrow will publish the report on the first half of the year. What are the remarks? The government is going with a fail of GDP 4.4 for this year, but the other international institutions are less optimistic in this. The poverty is not mentioned. The World Bank has mentioned that poverty will be increased. What do you suggest to the government to the rebalance of the budget? What can be done in order to evade those consequences of the corona? The public administration has already a capacity to implement PPP, and when the critics are on the World Bank that the public administration is slow, inefficient, and bureaucratic. Do they have capacity to implement such partnership? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll try to unpack the different parts of the question, and I hope I understood correctly. So indeed, tomorrow we will release the regular economic report for the Western Balkans, which basically looks at takes a picture of the situation in the sub-region and tries to assess the impact of the pandemic. Let me be very clear. I know it is newsworthy to look at numbers, higher numbers, lower numbers, but right now we are in a situation where every single projection, every single number we put out for public, for public consultation is subject to change, oftentimes, within days, within weeks. So instead of looking at numbers, specific numbers, and these will by any means change according to the institution, according to the cutoff date, I would rather take into consideration and focus on trends. What are the trends that we have been seeing? So the trends that we have been seeing is clearly a contraction of GDP across the sub-region, but across pretty much the whole world. When it comes to the Western Balkan sub-region, so we're looking at contraction of GDPs that basically is a reflection of the impact of lockdown measures, of decreased exports, of decreased imports. So all in all, the impact depends on how connected the economy of a specific country is to the global value chains. But also, let's also take into consideration that the impact that we see and the numbers that we see are somewhat, if you wish, better than what they would be had the governments in the region, including that of North Macedonia, not intervened to support the economy, to first look at and try to manage the health impact of the pandemic, and then provide source of livelihood, especially to those that had been severely affected by the pandemic. At the time being, right now we are looking at the specific poverty numbers for several countries. But what I want to say is that, and we just observed the International Day to End Extreme Poverty. Poverty numbers are on the rise all around the world. We should expect that just in 2020, a whopping 88 to 115 million people will again descend into extreme poverty. And that basically reverts a trend that was a consolidated trend for several years. Middle class has been particularly hit. So as I said, we don't have disaggregated numbers for countries for the time being, but this is again a trend. Now, that said, we can already start drawing some lessons learned from the impact of the pandemic around the world and in this region. What we see and what in our view should be the continuation of any government policy is to put the health of citizens first. If we don't address the issue related to the health issue related to the pandemic, then we would not only see an increase of the impact of the pandemic, but also an impact on the economic aspects that are related to the pandemic. The second thing related to that is government interventions are needed right now. but they need to be targeted, and especially to take into consideration the most vulnerable. And the third and most important thing is that we should always have in mind and keep in sight that yes, we are experiencing one of the worst crises after World War II, but we should always remain focused on the medium to long term and continue focusing on those reforms that are key to restore, to preserve and restore and enhance growth. I would probably just conclude on this part by saying that getting to the crisis in a situation of stable fiscal accounts with low deficit to GDP, low debt to GDP, was good because it allowed the authorities to basically have a buffer to provide immediate response. This stability should, in principle, be preserved, but having in mind that we're facing a crisis. So with some flexibility, but just having in mind that this will allow the country to weather additional crises if they materialize. Now, on the PPPs, you asked the question about the capacity that is needed. Indeed, capacity is an important aspect of this, but if we look at the experience of many other countries in both developing and developed world, capacity needs to be nurtured, but you need to start from somewhere. And I think that this is, as a process, it needs to be launched, it needs to be monitored, it needs to be supplemented by technical assistance, and it needs to be supplemented also by a continuous, honest, and I would say vivid feedback from the end users. It is important to remain engaged with those that will request that the service of that particular entity that will be put for public-private partnership, because that would basically allow to understand whether the PPP is successful. If the PPP results in an experience where consumers are not, users, service receivers are not satisfied, then there needs to be correction, and that correction is part of the learning. So that's. I hope I address your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, TV21 is going to ask a question. Vesna, I hope that we hear each other. I would like to continue to the previous question of my colleague, to Mr. Palucci. In concrete, are there any reviews? What is the direction of the Macedonian economy? And do we expect increase of the poverty in Macedonia? And to the Minister Bekteshi, the tourist agency hoteliers are telling that the money that's being as an assistance to the anti-crisis measures are delayed. What is his position on this issue? And these days we hear some analysis from the Centers on Economic Communication that it is needed the government to improve the transparency when granting state aid. One comment on this issue. First, we'd like to Mr. Palucci, if he's in position to answer the question.
I would basically reiterate one of the statements that I made before about the poverty trends. We are looking into the specific numbers for countries. So I'm not in a position right now to say anything about any specific number for North Macedonia. What I can say is that every single country is under stress, and that stress starts from the health pandemic, goes through the economic, the economic structure of the country. the magnitude of the stress depends on the response capacity that is put in place by the different countries. The earlier and the stronger the response, of course, I would say the lower the impact on the society, in particular the most vulnerable. But this is just one of the elements. I think that we need to take into consideration other aspects. In some of the countries in the Western Balkan regions, for example, remittances play an extremely important role in cushioning the impact of the crisis. So, that's also something that is not necessarily captured by a direct correlation between the amount of public funding and the impact on economic growth and poverty numbers. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the authorities have put in place a response, and it's been a timely response. Now, of course, in the delivery of the resources, sometimes there are delays which are also linked to the political juncture of a country. North Macedonia went through elections that may also have explained some of the continuity or some of the speed in the delivery. But the response was there, and the response is there. And there is a clear understanding that the response needs to continue and needs to be matched with thinking on how to put the economy on a sustained growth looking forward. I'm afraid I'm not in a position to discuss the issue that you mentioned on state aid, mostly because I didn't understand the question in English. But let me just say one thing, that it is transparency and accountability are key elements for the success of any public initiative. There is, of course, that's what every single institution should aim at. But that also means the ability for the beneficiaries to flag if issues are faced, if there are delays, and this input would need to be taken into consideration to improve the programs. Thank you.
Ако може пократко.
Shortly, because we have short time regarding the tourist agencies. Of course, we are discussing hoteliers, as I've already started previously. We are expecting the adoption or rebalance of the programs being prepared in cooperation and inclusive approaches with the coordination body, with the representative of the tourist agencies. These measures are very easily to implement, that we have already registered within the frames of the Ministry of Economy in the sector of tourism. Regarding tourist agencies that do not have licenses, there'll be a difference between the tourist agencies that have license A or B. We have already reiterated that when we're presenting the measures. So it was the requirement of the representative of tourist agency within the frames of the coordination body. I feel proud that over 80% of those, 90%, let's say, of the requirements have already been accepted by the government and the Ministry of Economy. And after the rebalance is going to be adopted, they'll be published, all these calls, and we'll start the delivery of the support and assistance to all the sectors that we've already presented. Regarding the transparency, as I've already realized, the previous measures from the first to the third set of package of economic measures, of course, they'll be published. All the public will have the possibility to see which business subject received those grants and assistance by the state, pursuant the clear criteria that initially been harmonized with the chambers of commerce, and at the same and the media and the citizens who have the possibility to see how are those funds spent and which are the subjects that receive such assistance, and taking into concern the criteria that we have previously completed. Thank you, Minister. Alpha TV, Tanya, who do you address the question to? To the Minister Bekteshi. I would like to ask the Postal Service, this model of YPP, with this model be solved? Whether with this model of PPP will be solved the problems in the other state loss companies, public coastal, wine seller, railway transportation and other companies, whether you have prepared analysis or you will make the analysis, how is this going to have impact on the budget? All of the time previously were capitalized those loss makers. As I've already stated, I answered to your colleague in regarding this. And these funds will be direct financing of the budget of for several projects, taking into consideration that up to this moment we had some legal solution and possibility to use those partnerships. Our state and our institution did not have the courage to go into depth of such projects of PPP. We do not have over 30 projects in our state that we have used this model, but certainly now we are preparing and upgrading this legal solution using the best practices that the deliberate countries have used and the experience of the World Bank. As the example of United Kingdom, billions of sums invested in UK from this model that they already use for years. Those best practices will be adopted as legal solution, from where will result the bylaws and at the same the other rule books on the manner how from local level to the central level how to manage and assist the expert from the Ministry of Economy and the other partners for the purpose to implement PPPs that will be in benefit of the citizens of the institution in order to improve the services and at the same time to have better realization, efficiency in quality of project in part of infrastructure and other sector that we have already stated. Thank you. As regarding the other loss makers, of course, we are discussing in the government in order to find the best solution. PPP is just one manner of solving those problems of such companies that previously shown certain losses. There are, of course, other models. The model remains to be managed by the state institutions or their management boards, but where there is a possibility for where the majority is the state as a stakeholder, we'll do whatever is in our part to find a manner for them to become company that are going to show some profit in such manner will benefit the state, but at the same the citizens and the employees in those companies. This does not mean that when we have a new legal solution of PPP, all the loss makers will be through this model. There are other models to be used. And certainly we'll call upon feasibility studies prepared for on every company that is loss maker and pursue the data that will result from those studies will deliver solutions on which will inform the public. In any other question? That's it all. Thank you. At the end, and I would like to read a question that have come to the ministry, the channel 5. On those issues are repetition from what is already been asked. If you have something to add, the fourth package of measures, when it's expected to be in force, when do we know all the conditions that are to be fulfilled by the companies to avail of the assistance? The fourth set of economic measures is in force. Some of the measures that are envisaged of economic measures are already in realization, starting from the weekend without VAT, tax-free lines and other measures that have already been started in regarding the payment of salaries, and the criteria during this week will send us a draft law to the parliament. Today and tomorrow completed all the consultation of the stakeholders, all the economic chambers of commerce unions, and tomorrow, the day after tomorrow latest, this will be sent to the parliament for adoption. And after that could be realized, this measure, which is really important for the companies. And yet I would like to read a question from Independence newspaper. How are you going to ensure legal expenditures, credit line for dealing with COVID crisis? How is the state going to the replacement from the World Bank to the project regarding the credit line from the World Bank for dealing with the COVID-19. Previously, we had the possibility to have implementation of such credit lines in our state, including the credit lines. There's possibility given by the World Bank during the realization of the initial measures, and the direct inclusion in the measure regarding payment of salaries for the months May, June and April in such manner, in a very transparent manner, and the other sectors will publish in detail where those funds are going to be allocated for the purpose of transparency and better conditions in the health system, and of course in maintaining the working positions as part of those credit lines are for the Agency for Employment. Thank you. These are the last question. Once again, I would like to express gratitude to the World Bank and the British Embassy for the realization of this project, and to the media. Thank you for your attention.